And we told you it all happened. It was live, and subsequently an event and counter-reaction, the opposition, NDC, and then the information ministry reacting swiftly. Now, the NDC said out of the 631 campaign promises by the NPP then in opposition, now forming government, only 86 promises have been delivered. And this, they say, represents only 14% of those promises. This is contrary to Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's claim that government has achieved just 78% of its manifesto promises and it's promising to do more.
The overall summary will shock you. It will shock you. Now, this is where we talk about the actual delivery. Actual delivery. So we have moved from what the promises they remember and hope that we will, forget the rest. Now we are talking about actual delivery. So this is the overall summary, the sectorial analysis. We have discovered, ladies and gentlemen, that the 631 promises that we listed, after thorough analysis, combing through documents, what they have told us in Parliament, either through the budget, either through the state of the message on the state of the nation, either through question time in Parliament or at the committees when we have summoned ministers to appear before us to answer to their mandate. Ladies and gentlemen, it will shock you to realize that only 86 out of these 631 promises have been delivered. So the percentage achieved is 14%. 14%, not 78%. And we shall prove it. In a few minutes, you will know that we are not joking at all. Agriculture, out of the 74 promises I told you earlier, only 13 have been delivered. And in subsequent slides, we shall give you a detailed breakdown. We are not just coming to give you numbers, do some quantitative analysis and leave here. We will give you the details. Only 18% in terms of the percentage achieved in the agri sector. Chieftaincy and culture. Chieftaincy and culture. My own good uncle from the Volta region, if we were in another jurisdiction, he will be resigning this afternoon.
But in a quick reaction, indeed a great rebuttal, at a news conference, the information minister, Kojo Ponkroma, said the NDC is being intellectually dishonest. He accuses them of falsely increasing the manifesto promises of the NPP to arrive at their number 631 instead of what he says is their number 388.
There was a lot of drama and flash and screens and repetition in their presentation today. But if you strip it of all the drama and the screens and the flashes, in substance, if you take the form away, in substance, there were two main claims they made which the government believes must be corrected in time. One is a claim that while government in its report in February this year outlined 388 promises and accounted for those 388 promises, they have discovered an extra 235 promises which the government of Ghana has hidden or refused to account for. In their opinion, the NPP administration made a total of 631 promises and has been intellectually dishonest, mind the phrase intellectually dishonest, in not accounting for 631 and 388 rather. The purpose of seeking to increase the NPP's promises from 388 to 631 is very simple. It's twofold. As we get into the 2020 national conversation period, one of the narratives that they seek to carve is a narrative of dishonesty. And in order to give life or credence to that narrative, they have to create scenarios that if indeed we made 388 promises, they will find ways of adding to it some 235 and claim that we made 631, and in the end say, therefore, that we have been dishonest. So,
and on the AM show, we want to broaden the conversation. That's, look, we don't want to do the party thing for now because progressively on other bulletins of the channel. We'll do that. But we want to speak to the experts who monitor transparency and governance issues of our country and elsewhere in the world, and also those who teach the subject of political science. So we decided to bring on stream Dr. Alidu Seidu and his colleague, Dr. Kwame Asante, political scientists from the Political Science Department of the great university, the University of Ghana. And Dr. Alidu is also on stream already. And Dr. Kwame Asante, do I have him also? Well, okay, so we have Dr. Alidu Seidu. Been a while, my brother.
Yeah, Mr. Walker, how are you doing?
Charlie, great, Dr. Seidu.
Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning to you too. And look, if the video goes off, we'll go phone line so that we get the conversation going. But as much as it is, as we're zooming you, you monitored the events of yesterday, didn't you? The two events, the NDC event and subsequently, I don't want to say the NPP event because that's the Minister for Information, the two events. What were your observations just in some few seconds or minutes of the NDC event and then the NPP event as well?
Okay, so we don't live in normal times. And this has actually limited the ability of political parties to effectively campaign. So they need to be very innovative. And one of the innovative ways they can do that is to actually do a desk-based research, and be able to speak to the issues. One, the manifesto is one of the most important. It is actually the heartbeat of an issue-based campaign. And when democracy begins to consolidate, you move away from personal attacks to engaging issues and how these issues can better the lives of Ghanaians. And when you pick a manifesto document, it serves a lot of purpose. But within this context, you can look at it from two perspectives. One, it can be used to sell a party's intentions and what a party seeks to do for Ghanaians when it wins elections. In that sense, you can use it in a more progressive manner. But it can also be used to discredit the credibility of a political party or a government of the day. Now, if you look at it within the context that the NDC used it was actually meant to discredit this government's ability to perform and whether it has actually performed. Now, this is not the first time. Imani Ghana came out and did a similar exercise.
Well, Dr. Seidu, it looks like you've muted your sound. Please make sure you. Dr. Kwame Asante, you're also on stream. Good morning to you, Doc.
Good morning, Roland.
Well, before your colleague
percentage of achieve and did their own research. Okay, so can I go?
Yes, I see that you're in a car. Perhaps maybe you can move to a more stable area, and then you put on your video. We'll get perhaps a better internet connection. It's just the times that we are in. The internet connections are always not great sometimes. But are you back, Dr. Alidu Seidu?
Yeah, I'm back.
Great. Please continue from where you left. I think that where I missed you was the fact that we're not in ordinary times, and these are the ways by which you can discredit or use a position or point raised to discredit whether a government of the day can actualize its own promises. So continue from there for us.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Walker. So I was saying that the NDC strategy is to actually discredit the credibility and the trustworthiness of the NPP as a political party, because their ability to fulfill their promises speaks volume in high esteem. But if you make a promise and you do not live by those promises, then people will begin to be very doubtful of what you promise. And I was making a point that this is not the first time. Imani Ghana did it and scored government differently. Government came out immediately and did this and scored themselves differently. And the NDC is also scoring government differently. Now, they are all scoring each other. The scores are different simply because of the methodology that each of these three agencies are using. They all use different methodology, but also the objective. What objective do they seek to achieve? I believe that government's quick response was also to project what they have been able to do over the years, but also to discredit the NDC and the NDC's method of assessing them as being intellectually dishonest. Now, I think the Honorable Minister's intellectual dishonesty claim was based on the fact that the NDC has padded promises that they have made. Now, Mr. Walker, if you look at it, the promises that politicians make is not only what is contained in the manifesto. The manifesto is a documented proposals, mostly backed by budget or expenditure, what government intends, political party intends to do when they come to power. But when a political party leader, flag bearer, or running mate, or somebody mounts a political platform and make a promise that can convince Ghanaians to vote for them based on that promise, it counts as something that should be redeemed. So my impression is that if indeed it is true that the NDC's catalog of promises, which were unfulfilled, is more than what the NPP had in their manifesto, as the minister is alleging, then I suspect that the NDC's methodology, which I haven't seen, but I'm assuming that moved beyond what is just documented in the manifesto to include policy promises and statements which were made on campaign platforms. And that is why moving into 2020, Ghanaians will have to, political parties will have to be very careful. The Ghanaian voter population are increasingly becoming discerning, and they will definitely hold political parties to account for what they have written as manifesto and what they promise on political platforms.
Okay, it's where I'm bringing your colleague, Dr. Kwame Asante. And Dr. Asante, it's quite interesting where Dr. Ali Dusedu left off. Would you then corroborate the observation he's made so far, particularly in relation to the promises that are in print and then those that are made orally and subsequently outside the realm of electioneering? Dr. Asante, are you on stream? Again, it's the internet connection. Dr. Asante is a senior political science lecturer with the University of Ghana Political Science Department, and also helping us do the analysis on the related issues about the unfulfilled promises by the NPP while they were campaigning, and also in their manifesto vis-a-vis what they are actually actualizing while in government. And there was a swift reaction from Kujapon Nkrumah, the Minister for Information. We'll take some few of the sound bites from the event as well for both sides, and then get back onto the streams as Zoom and get interactions ongoing. Dr. Kwame Asante is a political science lecturer from the University of Ghana Political Science Department. And we again also have his colleague, Dr. Ali Dusedu, from the same department, also helping us do the analysis. Now, look, this is what Dr. Seidu just basically says. He doesn't know the methodology of the NDC and how they arrived at some 631 promises, but ultimately what it means is that they may have transcended beyond what is in print in the manifesto and gone out to again measure and benchmark what government and its official had been saying as to what they'll do for the people. Dr. Ali Dusedu, the reactions then from the Minister for Information did give a certain indication of the NDC just politicking. Should he be just tagging it as what he seems it should be?
I don't think this is politics. I think it is the heartbeat of every election in a democratic consolidated state. People are interested. Why do we have government in the first place? It basically goes back to the proverbial social contract theory, where people forfeit their rights, technically, to expect govern. And that includes the ability of government to implement social, political, economic, security policies that can enhance the life of the ordinary citizen. So the social contract, so the manifesto promises that we keep is anchored on the original social contract. And this is not something that is politics. And moving forward, the Ghanaian population is increasingly becoming more accountable and discerning. They demand accountability from government. So you can no longer just promise anything and go away with it. Civil society organizations are also becoming increasingly vigilant in measuring, in devising mechanisms to measure these promises. So I think there is nothing more important moving into 2020 than what political promises have promised, parties have promised Ghanaians, and whether they have been able to deliver. Over the years, there have been a lot of research done which shows that there's going to be voter apathy. If you look at the Economic Intelligence Unit report, the Afrobarometer report, the Political Science Department survey, it all shows a little bit of what? Apathy. And what's the basis for this? Ghanaians are increasingly saying that now the NDC and the NPP
Well, so please continue, Dr. Saidu. Yes, please continue.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So basically, there have been a lot of surveys which suggest that there's likely going to be voter apathy, just as it happened in 2016. And the major reason has to do with the fact that political parties have taken Ghanaians for a ride. They make a lot of promises, you invest your confidence in them, and they come to power and they don't do anything over the years. So now the benchmark moving into 2020 and subsequent elections that will come after 2020 is the the trustworthiness of political parties in fulfilling the promises that they make to the Ghanaian citizens. There is nothing more, there is nothing less. Any other thing that borders outside of campaign promises and how they are fulfilled will be treated as tangential, because Ghanaians are now opening their eyes, and you cannot just make promises in order to win power. Make promises that you are committed to keeping and should be able to keep.
I read your publication based on your observations of 2016, and it made some references to what the political parties and the political leader needed to do ahead of this election. It was published in the Frederick Herbert Stiffing publications, and it's on their site. There was a great indication you made about the demographics of a voter population which is changing. And if you look at what the NDC did yesterday, I mean, well outlined PPT or PowerPoint presentations, very good in graphics, etc. How does that influence anybody, really?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, especially if you look at the voter dynamics over the years, though it's changing a little bit. But technically, the dominant party model of voter behavior is what is driving largely the voter dynamics in this country. And when you look at it roughly, the NDC and the NPP, since the beginning of the Fourth Republic, have always alternated political power and formed government and governed. But
we just lost the sound there.
From their core support base. So now the NDC or the NPP can get at least 44% of the votes coming dominantly from their strongholds. But that alone cannot win you elections. You need to get 50+1. And that is where the floating voter population comes in. And the floating voter population are usually businessmen, elites in society who are interested in the policy environment and conditions that will help their business succeed. So they look at manifesto, they pay attention to government policies and government intended policies when they come to government. So the best way you can attract them is to present it in a more accessible way. So I think the NDC moved beyond just the presentation and created a website where people can go and look at these promises, the methodology that they have used, but also verify. You can verify most of the claims that they have made if you are able to go to this website. And that is what not only the business community, but also partners that Ghana, states Ghana is a friendly nations to, can also look at this. The diplomatic community looks at what a particular government is promising, a political party is promising, and know that when this party comes to power, my government should be able to work with that particular political party. The business community and the investor community looks at your manifesto and say, oh, your